grateful to have Gregory Vetter on today. He's got an awesome new book called Undressed Out, his untold or told story of making his millions, creating his lifestyle, and building it all through salad dressing, if I understand the storyline properly. But I'm super excited about this. I haven't read all of your book yet, but I've read portions of it. I'm grateful for the gift of the book so that I could grill you a little bit more on that. But let's just talk about, how did you get to where you decided this was going to be your business that you were going to take all the way?
Well, I was selling insurance over a bodega overlooking a cemetery, and I thought, this is not great. I don't really feel like this is the move right now for the rest of my life. So every day at lunch, I would go home and I would stand on my head in the dark with a journal right by me, waiting for an epiphany. And one never came during the headstands. But one day, I walked downstairs to make myself a salad with some protein on top. And the 2-liter bottle of salad dressing that my mom had made for me was missing. And I did not live in a big townhouse. So I'm opening every cabinet and the refrigerator and the pantry, can't find it anywhere. And so finally I call my wife, she's at work, and I'm like, hey, have you seen our salad dressing? And she goes, no, I haven't seen a 2-liter bottle of salad dressing. It's there. I'm like, it's not there. And she goes, well, maybe someone stole it. I go, no one stole salad dressing from our home.
Especially a 2-liter bottle of salad dressing.
Right. This is not right. This is like, you got to throw it out the back window, circle back around, throw it in your car. And so I started calling some neighbors, and I got to a guy and I said, hey man, random question. Have you seen my salad dressing? And he goes, yep. Woke up this morning, was jonesing for it, hopped on the scooter, knew the code to your house. I came in and I took it. And I sat there and I thought to myself, what kind of man steals another man's salad dressing? And then I thought, what salad dressing is good enough to be stolen? And I called my wife.
He was being serious.
No, he stole it. He straight up took it.
That's funny. So he wasn't being facetious. That's funny.
He was crushing a salad. And so I called my wife back and I said, you're not going to believe this. So-and-so stole the salad dressing, and I'm going to start a salad dressing company. And she just dead silence. And then she goes, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard, and it's going to work. And I was like, really? That was kind of just a pressure test. And so from there, I Googled grocery stores around me and just started calling phone numbers every day. I wanted to get a real answer. Was it no, this is stupid? Was it yes, is there a possibility? And so then I got a guy on the phone. It was a Friday morning. He told me to bring him something during lunch. So I called my mom and I said, I need you to make the greatest batch of salad dressing ever made. And she goes, why? What's going on? I go, I got a meeting with this grocery store. We're going to be in there. I'm going to get this thing in. This is going to be big. She goes, you're not a company. There's no name. You don't have a bottle. What are you talking about? And I said, I will figure all of that up later. And so I put the lettuce in a little Tupperware container and walked in, and the guy came up and I said, here you go. I brought you a salad. And he looks at me like I'm literally on drugs. And he takes this piece of wet lettuce out, licks the dressing off, stares at me, and goes, this is the greatest salad dressing I've ever heard or I've ever had. You need to call the regional office. So from there, I had a meeting with the regional office, Googled my way into becoming an actual food manufacturer, got in for the grand opening of this grocery store, set a national sales record in our first week. We set up a demo, slanging dressing nonstop. And from there, that was my sign that there was potential to scale, and I wanted to see how far I could take it. And so we went from 1 store to 4 stores to 10 stores to every store in the United States of America, to the #1 organic salad dressing company in the country. And then COVID came, and the supply chain crisis came, and all of our investors got a little squirrely and wanted to sell it. And so they valued the business really big, between 300 and 500 million bucks. And then the sale did not go through. And so everybody lawyered up and goes, we're taking this whole thing for ourselves. So then for the next 2 years, I fought 3 different wars with 3 different weapons at 3 different moments in time simultaneously, basically playing 4D chess in outer space. And it didn't end up working. We tried to restructure it. We ended up basically giving it away to a private equity group for nothing. And I found myself at the end of this unbelievable journey of actually following and pursuing the American dream, and reflecting back on, what did I learn? What went well? What didn't go well? What can I take from this? And the next thing I know, I write every morning. I have a very specific morning routine. And I go, at a minimum, I just want the story to be available for my kids. If they ever ask me, Dad, when you were 25 and you started this thing, what was that like? And so I showed it to my performance coach, and he goes, dude, you need to write a book. I spend 99% of my time trying to convince people not to write a book. And this is the most outrageous story I've ever read. And I think it will help a lot of entrepreneurs. And so I wrote a book, found an editor, and it's out for the world to read. Audiobook is done. I'm on a book tour. I'm speaking to really cool people and colleges and universities. And I spoke to the Washington Commanders before their game last week. Thank God they won.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to say it if they didn't win.
I wouldn't be bringing it up, man. It went into overtime, and I was like, please win. So yeah, it's been a wild ride for sure.
That's so cool. So
yeah.
What did you find in the process of going through and discovering? I love that you use the term Googled your way through it. That's so many people need that. But what was the unique selling factor of your mom's salad dressing versus every other salad dressing now? Because obviously it's worth stealing, but in multiple senses of the word, people lawyering up to keep it.
Yeah.
But what was the thing that's like separating it from every other organic salad dressing out there?
Well, we didn't know it at the time, but salad dressing is not generally unique, right? Anybody can make it anywhere in the world. Where it gets sketchy is when you try and basically mass produce it. So
Sure.
We figured out how to mass produce a homemade product. So didn't have any thickening agents in it, didn't have any citric acid, didn't have any natural flavors, didn't have any sugar, used fresh ingredients. And so, the epiphany or the secret was just no secret. If you can figure out a way to not compromise the quality of the product for efficiency's sake, you can give people something that will blow their minds.
So what was the shelf life then, without certain preservatives, certain things that would make it last longer and add all those agents? What was the secret to keeping it produced at a way that the shelf life was long enough that it could be mass produced?
So it was refrigerated in the beginning, but still had a good shelf life, had a year shelf life. The interesting thing, and this is something that nobody had figured out or done, was we just used real ingredients, and most real ingredients are pretty shelf stable. Olive oil will sit in your pantry for years for the most part. Salt is very, very stable. And so really where the stuff starts getting a little squirrely is organic lemon juice, fresh garlic. Mustard is in there. That's pretty shelf stable for the most part. And so when you keep it super real, there's not a lot of places for stuff to grow. Usually where all of the weird growth happens is within water that's within a product with thickening agents and all this other stuff. So the whole thing just ended up being this beautiful case study on how you can take basically simple ingredients and just through recipe development make them relatively stable over time. And then when we launched a shelf stable product, it really just came down to the acid levels.
Okay, so just making sure that you had killed off anything that was going to go turn bad.
Yeah,
Through
and that
acid.
really just comes through like a vinegar or lemon, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't have to use crazy chemicals.
So I know you're talking about the simplicity of it versus the complexity of it. Obviously, there's the like when the tobacco companies and the alcohol companies figured out that they weren't allowed to keep doing that anymore, then they moved into the food industry, and that's you probably experienced a lot of that all around, trying to sell your company, trying to everything.
Yeah.
But there's a certain level of simplicity is the answer, but there's also I imagine, again, I'm no chemist, so don't, that's why I'm asking. Did you have to work with like food scientists, for lack of a better word, to identify what is the right mixture? Because yeah, too much vinegar maybe not as good, not enough vinegar is not good.
Yeah.
What was that process of really like trial and error to find out what's the right mixture of all of these ingredients? Because the same ingredients could bake a cupcake, a cake, a pie, a piece of like bread. Same ingredients, just in different amounts, create something different. What was that process like, deciding or discovering what was the right mixture for your long-term success of the product?
You have to go, you got to go through a process authority to make sure you're not going to kill people. So that's the first thing. Then you have a food scientist that verifies the process through shelf life studies. And then we had the most magnificent chief product officer that was a chef by training, physically altering the recipe to find that perfect sweet spot of flavor, acid, shelf life, etc.
Was there as you were going through and creating, obviously it was your mom's product, hopefully she got some benefit or royalties or income off of this. No, mom, I'm gonna steal your product.
Yeah,
But
no, she's doing fine.
she's doing fine. That's good. So from this experience, though, you're building this thing. My sister, she she actually did it. She started doing pancake mix,
Yep.
dry mix, and there, like certain states, you're able to sell at a certain level, and then commercial, and kind of build out from there. What types of things did you learn in the scaling of your business that were unexpected, or that you're like, hey, I didn't, this is something that people should look out for, and is also applicable to any business, not just the food industry business?
Literally everything. I mean, there's not a single thing that when you start your journey translates to any of the phases. So you can break out each phase with, and it could be people, it could be reporting, it could be sales or marketing or customer engagement or brand or manufacturing, or just the operational efficiencies of inbound raw materials and outbound like nothing is the same, nothing. And so we just approached everything with this understanding that we knew nothing. So everything for us was new. Everything was, that's cool. Can you do it this way? Can we do it that way? Is there a best practice that we could implement? Do we like the best practice? Does this best practice suck? Does this consultant even know what they're talking about? And so we brought this beginner's mind into an already established global industry of efficiency and output. And we go, okay, well, we don't want to change the physical product. So can we do it in a different way to deliver the customer exactly what they're asking for? And so it completely upended our entire perspective of what is required to take a product of the highest quality and give it a price point that everybody in America can decide to purchase and then create a customer base that values your brand deeper than just a surface level product. So all of that was required to create a national brand that was successful.
Yeah, I want to ask about that from a branding perspective. How did you choose to brand it? Did you brand it off of an individual? Did you brand it off a name? I mean, obviously your book has a fairly provocative cover and title on it. Was the salad dressing also provocative, or was it more like, hey, it's your grandma who you're inviting into your house? Like, what was the essence of the brand that people drew people in and made them connect to it?
So Tessie Mays is my mom's nickname. And then we made the product kind of very bold and bright and full of energy. So we looked at the kind of existing salad dressing category. It was all the same, right? It was like a white label with an ingredient and like a name on it. And, and it doesn't matter if it's freaking Newman's Own or this brand or there's no differentiation outside of maybe the bottle structure. And so we said, all right, well, we want to appeal to the millennial mom at the time, which was like the young mom who cares about better for you products, is active, is aware of what's going on in the world and wants the best for their kids, but doesn't have a boatload of money to be, spending $10 on salad dressing or something like that. And so we really just narrowly focused on delivering our target demographic exactly what they were looking for so that there were really no barriers to purchase.
Okay. And what was I love that. What was the biggest part of, like, okay, you were in one store, 4 stores. What took your brand, like, what was the process of really getting your brand all the way out there to where it's a national brand and maybe an international brand?
We grinded harder than everyone ever in salad dressing. So we literally did in-store demos in every grocery store in the United States of America. If you tell me where you live, I most likely have stood in that grocery store in the produce section handing out samples of salad dressing. And so then what we figured out was, this is the exact person we need to demo. How do we replicate that person throughout the country? And what is the greatest use of our time for that demoing situation? So then we ranked all the stores: A stores, B stores, C stores, D stores. D stores really kind of weren't worth our time. The foot traffic wasn't there. And unless there was a larger strategic intent behind it, you kind of just hammered these key high volume, hitting our perfect demographic exactly where she wants to receive salad dressing offers. And we just did that all over the country,
Like, somebody's thinking about, how would I like to be offered salad dressing?
Yeah,
I love it. So
100%.
well, I love that you think about that. And I think that that's one of the things that I want to highlight is the intention and all of the things that people don't think about when they're going through and building a business. So when we're talking about this, was there a specific strategic partner? When I say strategic partner, you can go into each store and sell your product and get that store to basically consignment your product on the shelf. Or you can say, look, we're going to go to Kroger, we're going to go to Costco, we're going to go to Sam's or Walmart, and we're going to go to these massive distributors and we're going to sell it to them, and they're just going to put it in their store. And I know that just from my sister's experience, there's a certain gross volume of sales that they want to see before you even touch that methodology.
Yep.
Even after that methodology, was part of your sales pitch to these companies that you were going to go personally demo the product, or what was part of that negotiation to get these massive companies who already have product out there that's already selling? Like, there's already plenty of salad dressing already selling. Why do they want to give you a space on their shelf?
We were special, unique, and different. So we were the first clean eating salad dressing. It tasted better than everything else anyone had ever had. The packaging was absolutely beautiful. It won the Nielsen Design Impact Award. The marketing was phenomenal, right? It was just like everything we were doing was just feeding our target demographic. And so you could walk into a grocery store and say, hey, we'll demo for sure. But at the same time, here's our consumer. This is the consumer you're after. Here's their market basket. So when they buy Tessie Mae's, they're also buying grass-fed beef, and they're also buying aged Parmesan, and they're also buying A2 milk, and they're buying grass-fed butter. And so their market basket is dramatically higher than a traditional customer's market basket, which is what you want. And so we would bring that data to them and then just kind of support it any way that we could. And, you know, all we needed was an opportunity because we knew the product would sell.
Who educated you on approaching it that way? I work with a lot of business owners. I've interviewed tons of people, and most people, when they're trying to grow their business, they go in almost, this is probably a misjustification or an understatement, but they almost go in asking for a favor. Hey, will you try this out on your shelf? Rather than putting in all of the legwork saying, this is why you can't not have my product on your shelf. Because of all these reasons, all these justifications, I've done all the work for you. All you have to do is scoot some of this stuff over, take away 2 bottles of Hidden Valley, and let's throw in Tessie Mae's right next to it or whatever. That's a lot of work that's upfront that you put in with the expectation or knowledge that it was going to pay off. But most people don't do that. Most people don't even think to do that. So what was the thing that inspired you to do that much work?
We understood that if people tried it, they would buy it. So in the beginning, it was just, we'll buy it all back, but we guarantee you we're going to blow the doors off of your normal salad dressing sales. It's a guarantee. So all you have to do is bring it in and approve our demo schedule, and your mind will be blown. And then you have to live into that, which we always did. And so then you've got the data points and you say, hey, here are the 4 products you have. You know, we make 8. You should probably bring all of them in. Hey, you should probably give us better shelf space. We're on the top rack. We should be in the middle. Hey, we should do cross-department promotions. You know, if seafood's bringing in a swordfish, we have a great product for that. We'll make recipe cards. We can make a day of it. And the whole purpose was sales volume. I think the problem so often with young entrepreneurs, especially in the food space, is they are they're like chefs, you know, or this is their passion. They love salad dressing, you know, it's the greatest passion of their life or whatever it is. And for me, it was an amazing test of what am I capable of? Can I take my mom's salad dressing with my brothers and my wife and turn it into something? What am I capable of? And so in doing that, you approach it really differently, right? It's like, I just wanted to win. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to figure out a way to win. I don't care the level of effort. I don't care if it's unconventional. I am going to figure out a way to be the number 1 salad dressing in the Mid-Atlantic region, then the East Coast, then the United States, then in all the retailers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the approach that we took was, if you've got a better way for me to do it, I'm all ears. Because standing in a grocery store all day is really hard.
Yeah,
and it is
not the most enjoyable way.
Well, and it's not for the faint of heart. You want to talk about awkward social freaking peer pressure or social anxiety. Go stand in a grocery store with your peers and hand out a sample and tell me how good you feel when people are like, get out of here, you know? But we were so positive and we were so goal focused. That's all we focused on.
And I love the idea. And I think just in general in life, if we can gamify life, we're going to get so much more out of it. We're going to enjoy it so much more. Too many people have their eyes focused on the dollar at the end, and they lose their they forget to focus on. I was listening to a guy, his name is Dr. Eric Cole. He's a CIA hacker. That's what he does. And something he said was, too many people are so focused on their life, they forget to focus on like living their life, actually having a life. And that's such a true statement. And I love that you were able to gamify it and say, look, let's just seek excellence, seek becoming our best selves, and the sales will take it. But rejection, discovery, remaining a student of life, those are all extremely hard things to master. But if you can be successful, I believe, in that endeavor, you can be successful in anything, because life is really pretty much the same process. You can take anything global at this point.
There's a recipe for everything, right? Mastery of a subject. Once you have mastered something, you can master pretty much anything because you know the effort required. Now, whether or not you decide to master more than one thing is a completely different story, because what it takes, the dedication, the time, the sacrifice. I mean, most people are not ready for that.
Yeah, and that's what I love, what I have read of your book. So if you haven't gotten this book or seen it, it's called Undressed, an unfiltered story of my failed American dream and how it led to success. So if you haven't read it, go check out the book. But he's really been helpful in the way he's written the book, is he's given all of his breakdowns of what happens in each chapter. But then at the end of the chapter, he's broken down like what are the lessons that he learned from that. So like if you just want to read the Cliff Notes, you can just read the Cliff Notes. If you want to go read the whole thing, you can read the whole thing, and it's still worth the purchase and get the book. So, but one of the things you said is, I just love this statement and the way you illustrated it, but when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on.
Yep.
Right? It always looks better in the morning. And that's kind of what we're talking about, is you have to be willing to get to the end of your rope. Getting to the end of your rope is an extremely, it ends up being liberating. Although it feels confining because you're at the end of your rope, it ends up being liberating, because somehow when you get to the end of your rope and you tie a knot in it and go to sleep on it, your rope just gets longer. You realize, oh, I woke up the next day, I have more in me, I have more capacity. So talk about a moment in this journey of where you were just like at the end of your rope and you just had to put a knot in it, but what that did for you in the future self of the journey.
I mean, every day, that statement of when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. The other thing that you develop by hanging on is muscle. You start developing muscles you didn't have before. And they're mental muscles, they're physical muscles, they're spiritual muscles. You have to get to the limit. And when you get to the limit, you get to see things you never saw before. And I think that's the most interesting part of going after your dream. You don't know how far you can be pushed until you get pushed. And so I would probably say, just simply before we even launched, the night before we launched, the grocery buyer goes, "Hey, can you send me your organic certification?" I go, "Well, I have all the organic certifications for all the raw materials." And he goes, "Well, you need to have an organic certification for the facility. That is how you can't have organic on the label." This is at 6 p.m. We're launching the next day at 10 a.m. Every label's made, aprons are embroidered, website is up, business cards are made, brochures to hand out to customers are done. And I just, yeah, no problem. That's not a problem at all. We'll just switch it to Tessie Mae's All Natural. That's not a big deal. And so you're sitting there in this moment. You go, I have to redo a website, get a new apron, print business cards, change this, change all the labels, make sure all of that had to be done in a very, very narrow window of time. And it's so overwhelming, because then the next morning, this thing is going to take off. I mean, how do you even deal with that level of chaos before the first minute even begins? And so you take that level of chaos and you apply it every single level of the business. And so jumping from 4 stores to 10 stores, tie a knot and hang on. There's a completely different delivery mechanism. Making dressing for 10 stores is so much different than 4. Apply that to jumping from 1,000 stores to 2,400 stores. It sounds easy from a number perspective. Now you're buying raw materials differently. Your machine can't keep up. The people aren't used to the workflow. And so every single day, you're just being bombarded with these tests. Are you strong enough to deal with it? Yes or no? And most people the anxiety and the pressure just crippled them. And we had so much turnover in the growth because we would grow from, 1 retailer to 2 retailer. And like, these are 1,200 door chains, or 2,400 new doors are coming on at once. That is not for the faint of heart. And it tests what you're made of.
Absolutely. We're not going to have time for this other question I have, but I'm just going to say it because I think it's important. And then I'm going to ask one final question because I know you got to go. But another area in his book is he's talking about how there's only trust. And everything, you say, I should have never gone back on the universal law of when someone breaks their trust, they're dead to me. And I'm excited for people to go read that chapter and really identify, like, who do they need to actually start believing. Like, when they show them what they're going to do and who they are, actually believe them. Don't give them an extra credit. Don't give them an extra chance. Like, hey, I believe that you are exactly who you are. Don't hate them for it. Don't have animosity. Just believe them. Say, okay, that's how you're going to be. I'm not going to be around you, but I can trust that that's how you're going to be. And I'm grateful for you showing me, and then move on rather than keep trying to give somebody an extra chance. So I want to go back to this idea of, for you, we were talking about this growth and the turnover and how you emotionally handled that. How did relationships and things get stronger or potentially fracture during the process amongst your family? Because this is a family business at the end of the day, and doing business with family, there's some good pros, but there's also some cons that you have to manage. It's a separate deal. So how did you manage that as a leader of this organization?
I'm very radically transparent. I get complimented on my candor a lot, which is not really a compliment. I think it's a passive aggressive slight. And what we did in the beginning was we did a lot of personality testing of everybody and mapping to get a deeper understanding of who we were, how we work as a team, what motivates us, where are our strengths, where are our weaknesses, how do we complement each other. And so that was very, very, very helpful in growing because we all had a common goal, but understanding and giving people the independence to get to that goal at the same time frame that you're going to get there, just taking a different route, was very, very important. And so I think when I look back on how were we so dialed in on achieving a similar goal, it was basically because I go, all right, here's our goal. Boom, 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 boom. Is everybody in alignment? Yes, we are. I go, see you at the finish line. And everyone was like, let's do it. And they needed to go their way. I checked in, right? Like, if you need anything from me, I'm available. If you ever need a resource, I'm available. But giving them the ability to do it their way, run their department their way, go through the process their way, and then I'm available from a resources perspective. That was very, very helpful in that process. It wasn't perfect. There was a lot of fights in the beginning, but we got through them all.
Yeah, I believe it, and I'm excited that you did, and I'm excited for what you guys learned as a family and grew together. And that's an experience that yes, you're going to pass on to your children now through hopefully tons of media impressions and video and everything that you're going to be able to pass on to your children, not just your book, but talking about it, sharing about it, even sharing stuff that's not in the book, the little nuances. But I'm grateful for your coming on this show. If somebody wanted to, I don't know what you're doing, whether you're doing mentor, coaching, and any form of like going past the book. The book I find is really helpful. Everybody should read it. Everybody should grow. But you're probably still going to have questions of how do I really apply this to what's the resource availability there? Maybe I just want to have Gregory come and speak to my team about how to get on the same page and like do the personality mapping and go through the grueling work of allowing somebody else their space. It's hard sometimes as a leader.
It's so hard.
So where would somebody connect with you and ask for more contact from you?
Yeah, social media. I'm on Instagram and social media for the first time in 7 years. So I'm back on the swing of things. I don't know if I like it. LinkedIn and then gregoryvetter.com.
Awesome. And I highly recommend just reaching out to him, having that conversation. It's never going to hurt, but you could gain so much from having somebody like that in your corner who's already been through the ringer, already been there. You can miss a lot of the mistakes and hit a lot of the key transition points if you have somebody who's been there guiding you through it. And it could be the difference of success or failure in your next endeavor, whether that's business, family life, being a parent, running a relationship, whatever it is. These principles are universal.
Yeah.
And if you can gamify life, gamify your relationship, gamify anything, you're going to have more enjoyment and fun. And you're not going to look at failure. We started off this conversation talking about the Washington Redskins. Well, they're not the Redskins anymore. Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
That dates me a little bit, I guess. But
same.
Yeah, we're glad that they won. But just if they would have failed, they won by putting in their best effort. And we have to recognize that it's a game and you're not going to win them all from a scoreboard perspective, but you can win them all if you understand it's a game and be excited for the next down. So thank you so much. Any final words from you?
No, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. We'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show. There you go. We got that done. It'll be posted next Friday. So you'll get, my team will send you out an email with all